I just killed myself. It was the best idea. You guys know that tune? Yeah. That song actually inspired the topic of today, the title of today's topic. And I know from the outside in that does sound like, I'm probably doing too much with the title. But I need you guys to feel me and hear me when I say that this is an actual thing that I did. It wasn't a physical murder. Obviously, I'm still here. But it was a spiritual soul funeral that I had for myself. Welcome to FONTÉFIT, the podcast. This is your host, FONTÉFIT, and I'm here to broadcast, okay? Today, we are going to be talking about me killing myself and, that being the best decision. And I know it sounds crazy. I know. But before we get into that topic, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Comment down below if you want. Just say hey, because we haven't even gotten into the video yet, so you don't even have any comment on the content. So just give me a hey in the comment section below. Don't forget to turn on your post notifications so that you'll be alarmed of any future videos that I may upload. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started into this graphic topic. I want to mention Joe Rogan's podcast. I was listening to a podcast. Well, it was actually a short on YouTube from his podcast, and I cannot find the podcast, and that's what's really bothering me. But in the podcast, they were talking about suicide, and his guest was saying something along the lines of, and this isn't verbatim because I can't find the video, and if you can, please link it. Somebody tell me, because I cannot for the life of me find the podcast. But the guy was saying that what if we looked at suicide in a way of that was our body's way of telling us that we had to die to this current version of ourselves, like this version of ourselves that we've been operating in, the mindsets that we have, the actions that we do, the environments that we put ourselves in. That version of ourselves is no longer serving us, and that's why the feelings and the urges of what we name suicidal or suicide thoughts or suicide feelings, that's really our body telling us that that version of yourself has to die and a new version of yourself is longing to be born, in a sense. So that's kind of where I got this idea and this topic from, and I can relate to it in my personal life because I personally, being transparent, we're going to be transparent. I personally, for a while, as long as, I would say in my teenage years, I went through a lot of severe depression, and I had those feelings of taking my life, you know what I mean? And I rebuke them in the name of Jesus because they are not productive and they are not the answer that I was longing for. But that doesn't negate or take away from the fact that those feelings were prevalent. And when I heard that take from Joe Rogan's guest on that podcast, it really puts things into perspective. And it also reminds me of even in the Bible when God tells us that we have to die to ourselves. And it's not literally dying because Jesus is the ultimate sacrifice. We don't have to die. A death isn't required. Our death, a death of, Jesus is the death that was needed for us to be reborn. But ultimately, we have to die to ourselves daily, and that means denying our flesh, denying our own wants and desires, and putting God's desires above ours. That's what it means biblically. But what I'm saying, is kind of mirroring the biblical perspective too. But really, to die to your old self means to turn away from old habits that no longer are serving you in your current reality, in this next stage of your life, and just denying habits that lead you to destruction, that lead you to death, and taking on new habits that are in the direction of life, in the direction of productivity. And these new habits you may not want to do, you may not want to take on. And the thing about change is it's hard to do that. Some people despise change. Some people, it's hard for them to change, but change is required in order to evolve and in order to become, you know what I mean? So yeah, and if you want to know why I keep looking down at my computer, I'm actually looking at my blog post, www.fonte.fit. If you want to read along, link is in the description. So yeah, that's what that really means, to die to yourself, to kill yourself, to really destroy that old version once and for all, and to be born again. Literally, figuratively, spiritually. Yeah. I mean, and it makes sense when you think about it. You can't possibly think that you're going to keep living your life doing the same thing. Was it Albert Einstein who said insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Yeah, you can't. What served you in one season is not going to serve you in the next. So this dying to your old self is something that you're gonna have to do. It's a reality that you have to come to terms with. I mean, you don't have to come to terms with it, and you can get arrested development, but essentially you're going to naturally in some way transform and evolve, you know what I mean? So how to know exactly when it's time for a rebirth? It's really simple. A lot of us know instinctively when there is a change that needs to happen, you know what I mean? This can come off as depression. If you're depressed a lot, that's a sign that there's something needs to change, something needs to give. It can come off as you constantly daydreaming, constantly wishing that you were somewhere else, constantly fantasizing about a better life, constantly aspiring for a higher frequency of living. Don't ignore that feeling and just think, oh, I'm just, whatever. No, that is your body, that is your spirit saying, hey, we belong over there, we belong on that side. This area is not working for us, Another sign that you can know when it's time for a rebirth, or knowing when it's time to die to your old version, is, let me look at my notes again, follow along, link in the description. You feel irritable and unhappy often, and that kind of goes under depression, irritability and things of the sort. But yeah, if you have little patience for people and even for yourself, that's an indication, hey, your body is telling you, I can't take anymore. I need a change. Something has to give. It's either going to be you or it's going to be you, Another sign is that you are curious about spirituality. You're curious about the unseen. You're curious about God, That's an indication that your spirit is redirecting you to the direction in which it's longing for, and the direction that better suits you for this season, and not even this season, for future seasons, you know what I mean? Another sign or indication that it's time for a rebirth, or it's time for you to die to your old self, is that you are seeing signs of hope. You're seeing signs of synchronicities. Things seem to sometimes give you, it's like a light at the end of a tunnel. Like you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and sometimes you're not sure how to get there, but seeing that light is an indication that there's something to look forward to. There's something that you are destined to approach. Something that is in the distance is better than your current reality. That's a sign, dude, that you need to improve, you need to grow, you need to kill that old version of you and become a better version of you. You just have to. Or, you don't have to. You can stay in this depression state. You can let it overcome you. And unfortunately, many people let those feelings of depression, those suicidal thoughts, those suicidal feelings, they let that overcome them, unfortunately, and they fall victim to that, you know. And rest in peace to all those people who didn't know that there was a way out, who didn't have the support, didn't have the motivation or inspiration to keep pushing just another day, because that day could have been the day that they realized that, hey, I can keep moving forward. And you know, if you are in that situation right now, if you feel that way, you can keep moving forward. You better life is on the other side. And I'm telling you this from experience. Growing up in an abusive, narcissistic environment, and not just verbally abusive, physically abusive, okay? Not having my father in my life to protect me. We're being transparent here. This is a very sensitive topic, and I want to be open with you all about my own experiences regarding this. I'm glad that I kept going. I'm glad that I stayed true and close to God and His Word. That's what guided me out of that, because honestly, that was really hard for me, you know, growing up. But if you are in that situation right now where you're trying to see I just need one thing to keep me going, one thing. I hope this video is that for you. I hope this is a sign for you. Just go another day. Just try another day. Try something new. Be a different version of yourself. Don't be somebody else, but be you in an elevated sense. Be you in a more rejuvenated being.